The GOP-drawn congressional map designed to help Republicans gain 5 additional congressional seats. We'll discuss this and more as we dive into today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also speak with Houston City Council member Mario Castillo, who'll discuss the launch of a pilot program to hold public comment sessions in the evening.
Plus, members of the Houston Cinema Arts Society will join us to talk about the upcoming Houston Media Conference.
And as Ernie, Frank, and I discuss the top stories of the day, we want your thoughts, questions, and concerns. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
All that and more right here on Hello Houston after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Israel has given the green light for the construction of thousands of new homes in the occupied West Bank. Critics say the long-delayed settlement project will bury the chances of a Palestinian state. NPR's Jackie Northam has more from Tel Aviv.
The so-called E1 settlement project has been on the drawing board for more than 2 decades, but pressure from the U.S. and other nations prevented it from becoming a reality until now. The controversial development, which involves more than 3,400 housing units, will be built on a tract of land east of Jerusalem, effectively slicing the West Bank in two. The Palestinian Authority called the development illegal and said it would destroy the chance of a two-state solution. Israel's ultra-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, who approved the plans, said the E1 settlements will erase any notion of a Palestinian state. The number of settlements has quickly grown over the past few years, despite international condemnation. Jackie Northam, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Hurricane Erin is expected to remain out at sea. However, Bruce Conviser reports from New Jersey the storm's proximity to the coastline poses a threat to anyone considering going into the ocean.
More than a dozen beaches along New Jersey's 140-mile coastline will be closed today as Hurricane Erin churns northward through the Atlantic Ocean. New York City beaches will also be closed. Wind-whipped waves create ideal conditions for deadly riptides. Riptides are dangerous because it's very difficult for anyone caught in the current to get back to shore. Tropical storm-force winds are expected to batter area coastlines with tidal surges up to 10 feet. Coastal flooding and beach erosion seems likely. When the beaches will reopen is unclear. The worst-case scenario would have them closed through the weekend. For NPR News, I'm Bruce Conviser in Greenbrook, New Jersey.
And this unusually large storm is producing tropical storm conditions across the eastern seaboard and will do so for the next few days. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson has spoken to NPR after he received a letter from Attorney General Pam Bondi that threatened criminal prosecution of him and other officials for allegedly impeding immigration enforcement.
In Pam Bondi's letter to me, she cites no law that says we're in violation of federal law. She cites nothing. It is all posturing. And as a lawyer, it's clear to me that our law is lawful. We follow all applicable federal laws. And that's why I don't think she's going to challenge us in court, because she would lose.
The Trump administration says it is carrying out a mandate from a majority of U.S. voters to crack down on illegal immigration in the country. It has accused Democratic-led states of blocking the federal effort by promoting protections for migrants in the U.S. illegally. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. The Texas House has approved a congressional redistricting map aimed at helping Republicans win 5 more seats in the midterm elections, as sought by President Trump. News 88.7 government reporter Andrew Schneider says the bill is headed to the Texas Senate.
The map passed the Texas House Wednesday evening, and a GOP-dominated Senate committee took it up this morning without hearing any public testimony. Republican State Senator Phil King was clear that he was sponsoring the bill to help the GOP maintain its congressional majority.
I'm very concerned that if the Republicans lost the majority in the U.S. House, that the 2 years following the midterms could be very harmful to Texas and to the United States.
The committee passed the map on a party line vote. The full Senate could vote on it as early as tonight. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
Hundreds of retired workers from the city of Houston are still waiting for buyout checks. Mayor John Whitmire promised to pay 1,000 workers within 60 days, but it's been nearly 4 months. Councilmember Edward Pollard pressed Whitmire on the delays.
I wouldn't want us to put forth expectations for these employees who've been working all these years for the city and then come to find out that the expectations that they have are not being met because we didn't put things in place.
Whitmire says the city's independent pension system lacked staffing and urgency, and the delays should be resolved by the end of next week. Checking your weather, it's going to be partly sunny this afternoon with showers and thunderstorms later on. High of 94 degrees today with a heat index of 103. Tonight, thunder showers into the evening, then mostly cloudy overnight with a low of 78. Right now, it's 86 degrees and partly cloudy on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello there. It is, Celeste, what day is it?
August 21st. We're flying right through this month. We'll be in September soon enough.
And my birthday.
September 1st. He really just turned that
like how I
to
did that?
Ernie.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and
that's one of Ernie's gifts.
When
turning it to Ernie.
When did you come to Houston Public Media, Ernie?
Oh, that would have been May 21st, 1996. It's been a long time, but it hasn't been that long.
Okay.
Anyway, we got totally off track. We've got a very important day today with a lot of things going on. Of course, we do know in the Texas legislature yesterday, the House finally passed the maps. We're going to be taking a much closer look at that and what happens next. In our second hour, we're going to go global, and we're taking a look at what is going on between Ukraine and Russia, and the Consul General of Ukraine in Houston will be joining us. We'll be taking your comments and questions on all of that. We're also going to take a look into City Hall, what's happening there. We're all over the map.
Don't forget current
Obsessions.
Yes. I can't wait to share mine. You're going to love it.
I am probably going to love it. And if you want to share yours, you can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. And don't forget to go to the YouTubes.
The YouTube.
You go to the YouTube. Yes, hellohouston.org, and you can hit that big orange banner. It says "Go Watch Live," and we are there. Our friends are already on. British computer guys there, and there is there. Where are you, Dark One? Dark One always shows up.
Now you're calling out our listeners and viewers.
I love them. Dark One always has a lot to say.
They're like a little family there. Quickly, weather. I can't make this up.
You know, it just we keep seeing these huge storms develop, and there's another chance as we go into this evening. So watch out. There's also a chance for some excessive rainfall, meaning some street flooding is certainly a possibility. We know how that can go. It looks like tomorrow is the same thing, and then it goes down a little bit for the weekend as far as the rain chances. It should stabilize a bit Saturday, Sunday, and then it's back with us next week. So keep an umbrella handy. Tropics are busy, but it's all in the Atlantic, so nothing.
Yeah, and what's going on along the East Coast now?
Well, that system is turning away.
So that's good.
It's finally moved northeast, which means it's a lot of swells and rip current, some probably gusty winds. But a lot of times when these storms are offshore, you have a beautiful day on land.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they're having any big complaints. It's all obviously the mariners on that side of the world are having to negotiate how they're going to get where they're going to go.
Well, speaking of swells, I get to spend every day with the two of you.
Oh,
that's
and
swell.
as always, we start off the show with Celeste giving us the headlines of the day.
88 ayes and 52 nays. House Bill 4 is finally passed.
And just like that, the Texas House passes the GOP-drawn congressional map, sending the bill to Senate for final approval, paving the way for Republican-drawn maps that could net the GOP as many as 5 more U.S. House seats. The vote occurred after more than a 2-week standoff with state Democrats who broke quorum, left the state, and led to an early end to the first special session. Monday, a second special session began, and the first order of business was to pass the map, leading to the return of the Democrat legislatures and law enforcement escorts, surveillance, and even lock-ins. But then last night, just a little before 6:30 p.m., a vote was called and the new map was passed the Texas House along party lines. Now is the time to join the conversation. You can give us a call or send us a text. What do you think? How do you feel? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. And joining us in studio to discuss further is politics and government reporter for Houston Public Media, Andrew Schneider. Andrew, what's the latest on the story?
Latest on the story is that the map went through the Senate Select Redistricting Committee this morning. They had a meeting starting at 9 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, they had passed it out of the committee, also along party lines. And that means it could go to the Senate floor as early as tonight. Right now on the agenda for tonight is the Senate's map, but Senator Phil King, the Republican senator, made it clear that he was backing the House version. And he explained why it was primarily to enable the Republicans to pick up 5 seats.
I am very proud of the work that the U.S. House has done, and the president and the U.S. Senate over these past 8 months now. I was very concerned and disturbed with what was done during the Biden administration, and I'm very concerned that if the Republicans lost the majority in the U.S. House, that the 2 years following the midterms could be very harmful to Texas and to the United States. And so I want us to maintain a Republican majority and hopefully increase a Republican majority in the U.S. Congress. And that's my purpose for being willing to carry this map.
So, Andrew, no more pretense.
No, and in fact, there was no pretense yesterday either during the House debate. State Representative Todd Hunter of Corpus Christi, who is the author of the map, made clear repeatedly that this was for partisan gain. He did say he did try and respond to Democrats who argued that there was essentially no difference between partisan and racial gerrymandering the way that the Republicans were doing it, but he was quite blunt that the aim was to maximize Republican political performance.
You just said the representative that wrote the map. He wrote the bill.
He wrote the bill. Excuse me.
Yeah,
He actually was asked about this several times as to who had actually prepared the map, and he could not name the person who prepared the map. He simply pointed to the law firm that had advised him on the map and said that it was a lawyer at that law firm who had drawn the map.
And you also, one last thing on that, also we talk about the Senate map and the House map.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that they are moving ahead with the House map. Is it the maps that are different, or is it the legislation surrounding
It's the maps. The House map actually draws several districts to be slightly more favorable to Republicans in the Houston area. That would include Congressional District 9, which has been moved from South and Southwest Houston, where it's been solidly Democratic for years, into an East Houston and Harris County district. And the House map, unlike the Senate map, includes Liberty County, which is solidly Republican.
So that's Al Green, right?
That is Al Green's district. Al Green's home has actually been moved into Congressional District 18.
So who wrote the Senate's map? Is it the same law firm that did the House map, or did the Senate themselves take the map and adjust? How do we know how we got to their map?
It's not clear to me. That was actually not something that came up in any of the hearings.
And it doesn't matter now because it looks like it's the House map. That's
Exactly.
the one that's going.
Andrew, what does this mean to the Sylvester Turner seat?
Well, Sylvester Turner's old seat, Congressional District 18, was solidly Democratic. It looks like it's going to continue to be solidly Democratic under the new map. But what it means in practical terms is that if Al Green wants to stay in Congress after the current session, his best bet for trying to do so would be to run in the congressional primary for the 18th, where his home has been moved.
I was going to say, is that a coincidence? That is, I mean, how did that's good luck for him.
Well, I've spoken with a number of people, political scientists that argued that would be his best chance. It's impossible to read the man's mind. He hasn't made any public statements and probably won't until the map is law. Which we're expecting to happen sometime in the next couple of days at the current pace. But it's basically a variation of what has happened in previous rounds of redistricting in order to try and force him into a position of running against another Democrat.
And do you know anything about the vacant seat in Dallas that has been solidly Democratic that also hasn't been filled?
I have not been watching that one as closely, no.
Let me ask you a little bit about a little civics class here for me.
Sure.
In the state, do you have to live in the district you represent, or do you have to just live within the region? I don't know. How does it work? Do you have to live where you represent?
My understanding is that you don't have
See,
to.
That confuses me.
That you don't have to live in the district, but it's certainly it's something that works to your disadvantage if you're not in the district, if for no other reason than because you don't understand the district's concerns as well.
And I asked that question so that understanding if your district got shifted away from you, but you've been a successful representative, you could still run in this new district. Even you don't have to move your residence.
You could, but I think it would be an extremely heavy lift for Al Green to run in the new Congressional District 9 simply because it has been drawn so heavily Republican.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're listening to Hello Houston. We're speaking with politics and government reporter for Houston Public Media, Andrew Schneider. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. Wayne is on the line. Wayne in Galveston. What is your comment or question for us today?
What happened to integrity and honesty and the old way they used to do business, a handshake? You could just start. You get to the politicians to say, okay, well, give me 5 seats. And then, okay, we'll give you 5 seats. And then all of a sudden, you're changing for your benefit. What happened to honesty? And if the bill is so beautiful, big, beautiful bill, why you have to get more seats? Because if it's so beautiful, you're going to get even more people to love that bill. So what's the problem? I don't understand that.
Wayne, that's a great question. I think that's on a lot of people's mind. Andrew, how much time do you have to explain what's happened to politics?
Well, I've only been covering Texas politics for 9 years, but my understanding is that this is not the first time that we've had a mid-decade redistricting, even in my lifetime. Less than 25 years ago, there was a mid-decade redistricting that was led by then Republican Congressman and Republican House Majority Leader Tom DeLay. That was after the Republicans captured control of the Texas House for the first time since I believe it was the 1870s, and they immediately tried to turn that to their advantage.
You know, Andrew, speaking of that you've been covering this for a while, President Trump took to Truth Social and he was congratulating Texas. He said, for, quote, never letting us down. He's calling this a victory. We see it more than a state win, but a national turning point. We use the term unprecedented times often, but has there been a time where Texas is kind of, from a political standpoint, been as, in a national light like this based on anything like redistricting?
I think previously the last time would have been in the early 2000s with the Tom DeLay mid-decade redistricting
that you were speaking about.
We are talking with Andrew Schneider, who is our politics and government reporter here at Houston Public Media, and we invite you to the conversation, 713-440-8870. Sherry from Memorial is on the line. Sherry, what are you thinking today?
First of all, I hope the people that are Democrats stayed home last time because they thought it was a lock and that there'd be no way Trump could win again. I hope they really turn out this time, since the Republicans are basically cheating by asking for more redistricting, which weakens the Democratic vote. So I'm going to hang up. I just really think it's cheating, bad sportsmanship. And I, born in Houston, my grandparents, my parents, this isn't the way Texans act, just cheating that goes on with that. My father was a Republican until Trump came into office, and this is not Republican or Texas values where you have to cheat to win. You win on merit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry. I agree with you.
Andrew, let me ask you about that. The word cheat was used there. I think a lot of people said it's illegal and all of that. But I guess what we understand is, and help me through this, there is nothing that says you cannot do this. It has been customary for the most part not to do it. And the way they have been blatant in the idea of saying, and they, I mean the Republican Party coming out and saying we're doing it to get more seats to hold on to control. I think that's what leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But it is not illegal, correct?
No, it is not illegal. And one of the more frequent comments that came up during the House debate yesterday from Democrats was exactly to that point. Several of them, among them former House Minority Leader Chris Turner, said used that exact word. He called it cheating, and several others, including Houston State Representative John Rosenthal, who is the vice chair of the redistricting select committee, said just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it.
Right. Things can be legal.
Might doesn't make right.
Yeah.
Right. And, Andrew, you've also been covering, the special sessions. Can you tell us about some of the other topics and agendas and what's happening, the latest? I know a lot of people want to know flood mitigation, and I understand the Camp Mystic parents were testifying. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, some of that legislation that has effectively been bottled up by the redistricting fight is likely to move forward now. There's definitely a push to try and get as much of this done as possible by Labor Day. And I think just for the sake of optics, if nothing else, the Republicans are going to want to be able to demonstrate that they're doing something on flooding. And I believe that the Camp Mystic legislation is one of the first bills that's going to be moving forward.
All right. We have another call. This one from Sebastian in Kingwood. Sebastian, what's on your mind? Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey there. I was just curious, how is this adding the 5 seats strategy not the same as the Republicans blaming Biden for trying to stack the Supreme Court when he came in to give him an advantage?
Andrew, your thoughts. How is it different?
Well, it's not really something that I've given a whole lot of thought to, I have to confess. But one could certainly make the argument that it is basically the Republicans doing exactly what they've accused the Democrats of doing in a different context.
And this is what comes up all the time in this particular event, this moment for us, is that those in power are making the rules as they go along, and that the Republicans will say the Democrats do it when they're in power, and the Democrats say the Republicans do it when they're in power. This one seems egregious in this moment to a lot of Texans, and they're upset about it. But there's also the other side that feels very empowered, like the clip you played.
Can I make a comment before we get too far away from that?
Sure.
When Biden was elected president, like any president, we expect there could be Supreme Court changes, that there would be a retirement or a death, and then that president will likely appoint a Supreme Court justice favorable to his ideology. This is not where someone died or retired. In fact, this is, to your point, an out of timetable power grab. This is not along the census lines when it's supposed to be. This is, let's do it now. We're in power. We have the opportunity to grab more power. We're going to do it. So that's what makes it different than someone like Biden coming in and taking the normal opportunity to do what they all do. This is very different than that. I think that's what leaves a bad taste.
I think one of the things that's worth pointing out here is that what happens here in Texas is not going to end at the borders of Texas.
That's the part that fascinates me in this whole story. We are far from over.
We are already seeing California moving ahead on trying to advance a map that would essentially do the same thing in the opposite direction, flipping Republican seats to Democrat. Although in California's case, the map that the legislature is proposing and that Governor Newsom has proposed will have to go before the voters. So that's an extra step. You've had states on the Republican side, including Florida and Missouri and Indiana, states on the Democratic side, including Illinois and Maryland and New Jersey and New York has suggested it, although New York has some further hurdles that would prevent them from redistricting probably before 2027. The end result could certainly be a wash nationwide. In other words, you could simply just have a large realignment of where those seats are located and still have more or less the same balance in power that you have now.
In California, if people thought it was a cakewalk, I don't know how closely you're following what's going there, too, because we've had a lot going on in our own state. But there's been pushback even in California now. The California Republicans are not simply saying, sure, Gavin Newsom, do this move.
No. And in fact, one of the more interesting developments in Congress that I've noticed and did a brief story on, I believe it was last week, was that you have 10 House Democrats from Texas and at least 2 Republicans, one from California, one from New York, all of whom are advancing various different bills that would ban mid-decade redistricting. And what they all have in common is that they're potentially targets of it.
Right. That's good.
You're listening to Hello Houston. Mark is on the line. Mark in Sugar Land, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
I have 2 questions. First question, is gerrymandering now legal? I was taught in political science class that it was illegal. So just to say we're drawing districts to benefit more seats seems to me to just be illegal unless it's legal now. And secondly, if it's not, what's to prevent redrawing districts yearly?
Yeah, I heard that talked about on the phone. Thank you for that call, by the way.
Thank you, Mark.
That was like, well, what stops us from doing this every election?
There is literally nothing to stop us from doing it at every single election, and this was a point that Democrats raised repeatedly. As far as whether gerrymandering is legal, it depends on what the motivation behind it is. If it is purely partisan, the Supreme Court has basically said partisan gerrymandering is legal and federal courts cannot interfere with it. If it is racial gerrymandering, that is still forbidden under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And the argument that the Democrats have repeatedly made throughout this process is that in Texas and many states of the South, it is very difficult to differentiate between the one and the other.
So give me a little catch-up really quickly, though. On the current map we have in place, it was going through the court system. Where did that end up? Because we got so focused on this new map coming in. Is the current map still being challenged in court? Has there been a ruling on that? And what does that do to where we're at today?
If my memory serves me correctly, the court arguments on that just ended shortly before the first special session, and a judge has yet to issue a ruling. So
But
that is still under litigation.
None of that would matter if this new map gets signed in by the governor.
Well, it matters insofar as that there have already been a number of people that have said that they're mostly Democrats who have said they're planning on challenging the new map as well.
Right.
Politics and government reporter for Houston Public Media, Andrew Schneider. Andrew, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
You're welcome.
Coming up on Hello Houston, Council Member Mario Castillo of District 8H joins us. This is News 88.7.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
7 o'clock on News 88.7. Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Holdsworth Center, a nonprofit committed to helping Texas public schools grow strong leaders, accepting nominations for teachers in the Houston area to attend a Texas Hill Country Wellness Retreat at teacherretreat.org.
Support comes from LaPorte CPAs and Business Advisors, an independent accounting and business advisory firm serving clients for more than 75 years, with 190 employees across offices in Houston, New Orleans, and other locations. More information at laporte.com.
Support comes from Houston Theater Week, a citywide celebration of live performances. Participating organizations include theater, dance, and music presenters. Returning August 18th through 24th. Tickets at HoustonTheaterWeek.com. Support comes from Specs, Texas family-owned since 1962, offering cool sips, snacks, and more to help beat the heat for a cooler summer. Details at specsonline.com. The fun starts here.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
Houston City Council is launching a pilot program to hold some public comment sessions in the evening, giving more working residents a chance to speak directly to their local government. The initiative, championed by Councilmember Mario Castillo of District H, will shift one meeting a month to 6 p.m. through the end of 2025. After that, the council will decide whether to make the change permanent. The first of these sessions is coming Monday, August 26th. To talk about what this could mean for civic participation in Houston, we're joined by Councilmember Castillo. Councilmember, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me back. I'm grateful to be here and with some good news to share.
And we'll get to that in 1 second. We want to let you know if you want to join the conversation and speak with the council member, just give us a call, 713-440-8870. Good news. What have you got for us?
Well, the last time I was here, it was to promote this idea that our public sessions, which are typically 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, get moved into the evening once a month at City Hall to give people an opportunity to come and address the mayor and their elected officials.
And when you say opportunity, it's because they're working during the day.
Right. Or, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, it's hard to get away, or you need to take a vacation time or something to come and talk to your elected officials.
Right. I remember we were talking about this. Okay, go on.
So now what we have passed is a pilot program. The rest of this year, we'll have one evening public session at 2 p.m. or at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. So first one is the 26th, next Tuesday, and you can actually sign up now for that. The sign-up period is
Monday.
open.
Where do you go to do that?
It's Tuesday, August 26th.
Okay, I said it wrong. I apologize for that. So
where do you go to sign up?
You can email the city secretary's office, you can call the city secretary's office, or you can go in person and sign up. Those three methods work. And we are going to share out the information for the city secretary's office on our social media channels. We're working on soon a new system that will allow online signups for public speakers. It's in the works, but it's not there yet.
Question for you, Councilmember Castillo. How are y'all measuring, because it's a pilot program and it will end in December, what are kind of those measuring metrics that y'all are saying this is working, we're going to move forward with it, or you know what, we thought this was a great idea, but maybe there really isn't that need for it?
We typically have a public session and, we measure the minutes of people signed up to speak, because you can sign up for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or 1 minute.
So that's interesting. So it's by time, not by person.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So once we hit 150 minutes, everyone gets moved into a 1 minute category because of time, right? Yeah. And so I think that's a good benchmark. Typically, if we're seeing people sign up and we're hitting that 150 benchmark in the evening, we know that this is something that is warranted, that people want to take advantage of. If we're sitting there at 6 o'clock and we've got 3 or 4 people signed up and we're done,
This is probably not
okay, maybe we just keep it at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays.
But what's unfair about that, too, to some degree, is this is brand new. And a lot of people don't know they have this opportunity. And for many, unless, I mean, I think everyone should be listening to this show, but they don't.
Yep.
And so they may not know about this. And by the time it swells to a point where people start to realize it could be December, and they'll say, well, it hasn't really caught on yet. Is there another way to gauge how well the word is getting out and acknowledgement of the community that they know this is happening?
That's a main reason why we wanted to do multiple. There was talk of trying it once and seeing if that was enough of a gauge. And that really wouldn't have been because you put all the pressure on that one meeting. This gives us 5.
Right.
And so we can, I can give you all the dates: August 26th, September 16th, October 28th, November 18th, December 16th. Those are the evening public session dates for the rest of this year.
I assume they're online too.
And we'll also try to post that on our Instagram socials as well to make sure that people have access to that easily.
So as far as publicity, I would suggest 6 p.m. live shots on all of the public television and
local
commercial
news.
television. Certainly they would. That's a perfect opportunity. I have a question. You're talking about 2.5 hours there, 150 minutes, right? Do people have to give you the category they want to talk about, or are they just like a shotgun?
That's a great question. So you can sign up to speak on one of the agenda items, or you can just list any topic you want. There's no criteria that you have to come down and talk about something on the agenda to speak to us.
Okay, but when you try to categorize it like A, B, C, D, so all your A's, all your B's, all your C's, otherwise you're going back and forth. And
there is some of that. So anyone speaking on an agenda item, those get listed first, whether it's 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or 1 minute, and then everyone else comes after. And they do try to group topics. So if you're talking about a construction project and there's a bunch of folks in the neighborhood, they'll usually have those bunched up. If you're talking about bark, they'll have them in a order. So they try to do that so that there is some continuity.
Can you name one situation where people have come down public and spoken, and you have really said, you know what? They just said something I hadn't thought of.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Does it?
I mean, it does, because and it happens in things that aren't even in my district, because there's a big city, 11 districts, different projects, different issues, but you have folks that come down and talk about just very neighborhood-centric things. At this intersection, we're dealing with XYZ, or this business is impacting us here. Here's what we would like to see, or here's how we want to address it. And you're like, wait, I have this going on in my district, but we haven't thought about it that way, or we haven't approached, so you're getting ideas. And this was one of the reasons for moving it to the evening, to hear from more folks, because the more we hear from the public, we are better elected officials because of it, because of those reasons, because of the ideas, the way that other neighborhoods approach things, the challenges other neighborhoods have. Those you can all learn from, even if it's not something directly in District H.
Yeah. We've all seen the nightmares of sessions in City Council that an item has come along that has outraged or excited the community, and those sessions go on and on. Is there a time limit for how late this could possibly go? Or if it's something that's electrified the community, you're there to listen?
There's no time limit. I know when the HERO ordinance was being considered, some of those public sessions went well into the night and into early the next morning.
In the day.
And they started at 2 p.m. So that could happen. We have talked about better enforcement of the time limits. If you get 3 minutes, your 3 minutes is up. Okay, next speaker, unless you have questions or comments. 2 minutes, 1 minute, same thing. If you let that lapse, especially over a number of speakers, you will, be there for quite some time.
Is there a red light or a bell? How do you know when
the bell dings? The city secretary lets you know your time has expired, and if people have questions, you can stay there and answer them. But unless you get your time extended by a council member or the mayor, it's the next person that comes up to speak.
A question for you about your fellow council members and their feelings about a lot of folks. They get on a city council. They know what the commitment is going to be. This is shifting it, these evening sessions. Any pushback there, and how has that been resolved?
We did get some pushback around traffic being a major concern, and people getting to City Hall in the evening. And I get it. I don't know that it's going to be that big of an impact because people are coming downtown in the evening every day of the week for the Astros, the Hobby Center, Toyota Center, Jones Hall, you name it, and they're able to get there on time. So I think we're going to be okay on that front. There were some comments raised about potential safety with people leaving, later in the evening, and we're going to make sure that that's, addressed. But overall, we're usually somewhere in the evening during the week, whether that's a civic club, a super neighborhood, a community meeting, you name it. So I get that if we're there a long time, especially with council members that have young families and other things, and we're there the next morning for our agenda session, there is valid concern there. But for the most part, we're usually out in the neighborhoods anyway in the evening.
So typically an agenda format, the public comments would start at 2:00. Usually on average, how long do they last?
I would say, 4:30 to 5:30 generally. Sometimes we're there a little longer if it's a packed agenda. And this past Tuesday, I think we were out before 4:00. So sometimes they wrap up a little sooner.
I want to switch topics as long as we have you here, just to get a couple of thoughts from you. Letitia Plummer and her resignation, how is that impacting City Council, do you think?
She's still in the seat until a successor is named. So she's still there. She's present. She's making amendments and making an impact in the issues that matter to her. So, yes, on paper she's resigned. Day to day, you really don't feel that because she's still there and she's still working.
A story that was in our news today, moving on to another topic, the buyout checks for folks. Where are we standing on that, and how do you feel it's been answered sufficiently?
I saw the story. I know that there was a potential 90-day timeline to get those checks out.
Right.
And I don't know that we've hit the 90-day, or we may have hit the 90-day recently. So that's something I haven't dug deeper into.
Here's a question from Cosme Garcia. Is there a financial impact to this changing the times to the city, like overtime staff, or does it cost any more to do this?
Great question. We did consider this. The original proposal had public session moving out into the neighborhoods at a multi-service center, at a community center. There were costs associated with that we need to dig into deeper before we actually do something of that nature. With keeping it at City Hall, security's already there. Staff will just have to augment their time so that they're there later. So they're coming in later so they can stay a little later. Again, a lot of our staff, they're out in the community with us at the civic clubs representing the council members. So the expectation is just not necessarily overtime. It's just people show up later knowing they're going to be at City Hall a little later. Same for regular city staff. That's usually a public session.
And quick, garbage is getting picked up better?
It is. The new director has made a number of changes. We just ordered a number of trucks. You'll see white garbage trucks out there now because we're not painting them because that saves us $3,000 a truck.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so we can buy more trucks. But yes, solid waste is now putting out daily updates to let you know if your trash or your recycle is delayed so that you have better information on, it's going to be a day late, it's going to be 2 days late.
And the monthly junk waste and heavy trash pickups at the end of the month, are they still?
They're still on, and they also put updates out on that every day, whether heavy trash is delayed or tree debris is being picked up. Yep.
All right.
Councilmember Mario Castillo, thank you for joining us today.
Thank y'all so much.
On Hello Houston. Coming up, we'll talk about the upcoming Houston Media Conference. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
The Marketplace coming up tonight at 6:30.
Federal support for public media may be gone, but the truth is this station runs on something even stronger: you.
80% of our funding comes from Houston, not Washington. That's why our station has launched a resiliency fund.
Your gift to Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund today helps protect the future of public media in Houston.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, in preparation for the Sunday night premiere of Season 2 of The Marlowe Murder Club, enjoy an encore marathon of all 4 episodes of Season 1. Tonight, beginning at 7 on Houston Public Media TV8. Support comes from the German Saturday School of Houston, providing instruction for children and adults at Bel Air United Methodist. Registration is open for the upcoming school year, beginning August 23rd. More at 713-569-0801.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
From August 22nd to the 24th, the Houston Cinema Arts Society and the Southwest Alternate Media Project will present the 3rd Annual Houston Media Conference, a 3-day event featuring a wide range of workshops, panels, and networking opportunities for anyone interested in media. The conference will serve as an open forum for industry professionals involved in all aspects of production to connect, learn, and collaborate with representatives from Houston's film and media industry. Joining us now to tell us more about the Houston Media Conference is Katie Creeggan-Rios, the Executive Director of the Houston Cinema Arts Society, and Mariela Aguirre, a Houston Cinema Arts Society board member. Katie, Mariela, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you so much for having us.
And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can give us a call, 713-440-8870, or text.
I love this Southwest Alternate Media Project. SWAMP.
SWAMP.
Who came up with that?
Oh, I mean, SWAMP is a 50-year-old organization.
So neither of you were there at this time.
We were not there.
No. I just want to start with the need for this for our community. What led to that want to begin with? Because we're a few years in now, and we've seen it grow in attendance, so therefore there are people interested. But what came up with the idea? How did it start?
Absolutely. When my co-director, Randy Ramsey, and I founded this conference, we knew that Houston has such an expansive creative community, and we're exporting, particularly in media, we export talent out of Houston like crazy. They travel to Atlanta, Austin, Dallas, LA for work, and we noticed and observed that Houston's media community is very siloed. Everyone's working in their own little geographic pocket and not really finding that central hub to collaborate with each other. So that's why we decided to start this conference, is we were trying to create a forum, and people were hungry for it. It's tripled in size in 3 years. I'm truly honored to do this for the community.
And it's interesting, Katie, that you talk about how Houston, people that are within this industry go out, but Texas really is becoming a hot spot for television and film production. And can you talk to us about what role Houston is actively playing in that?
Houston is the city of the future. We're telling more stories here than any other city in the country, and maybe even the world. More languages are spoken here, and we have a really great, rich community of people who are multi-hyphenate. They work across industry in different roles, and they understand how to be entrepreneurs as well as content creators. And Mariela can speak to this as well. As a studio owner here, it's on the rise. Houston is growing rapidly, and we're filling a lot of those holes that Austin and Dallas can't fill because their scenes are more established and they're locked into their way of doing things. In Houston, we're a little more nimble.
So this is this weekend. Where is this being held?
We're at the Norris Conference Center in Houston City Center, which is at I-10 in the Beltway. Parking is free. Parking is free.
A lot of the events are free. I looked at the schedule. It looked like a lot of them are like no ticket required.
Yeah, for the most part. We do have the badges that are available, but we do have demos that are going to be on the exhibitor floor. We have amazing people. Orlando Briones from Filmatic is one of them, and also Daniel Salivar with White Rhino in San Antonio is going to be doing some demos.
What I saw on the schedule is that, and I'm kind of making this up, it seems like it's about 80% film oriented, maybe 20% podcast and radio, maybe a little TV thrown in, but it's very heavy on film and directing and putting a movie together. Am I wrong?
There is a lot of film, that's true. There's also a lot of crossover with our marketing agencies. We have the AAF programming some sessions for us on how media and marketing work together, directing commercials, as well as sports broadcasting, live broadcasting for sports.
So JJ Moses is going to be one of your speakers. I love JJ. I want him to come on our show. He's terrific.
JJ, come on our show.
Come on,
I'll
JJ.
put in a good word for you.
Let me ask you about the changing landscape of media today. And we see it changing so rapidly. And I'm curious, in just the 3 years this festival has been going, or this seminar, this conference, have you seen a shift in the media world and what people are interested in?
Oh, absolutely. You can just see it in the different talents that are coming aboard and more production studios as well. So it's up and coming, and not just in film where that's my background, but also in podcasting and content creation. We have actually a lot of very, very high profile content creators here in Houston.
Yeah.
So it's becoming more and more popular.
I know there was a bit of a fear that with all of that independent content creating, doing it yourself, the ease of technology now, that would hurt the industry as a whole. Does it hurt? Does it help? Is it funneling in new creatives into the actual industry, or is it separating them out and they're doing it on their own now?
I think with how everything is changing, including technology that is rapidly changing, it's changing dynamics. And I think a huge part of that ends up being the ripple effect, of now we're coming into a new phase of how to do things or how to incorporate things. So it is changing the layout.
So gathering like this is perfect at this time so people can understand that shifting landscape.
Right, because you still have seasoned individuals that do know, from how it got started and then now how it's changing. You bring in both worlds together.
We have a lot of sessions at the conference also on starting your own social media brand. As a filmmaker, being able to market yourself on social media is very important, and also understanding the future technologies and applied AI and how they're going to change our careers, not just filmmakers, but all media professionals.
And you also have legal and financial professionals. Talk to us a little bit about why, when you would think of a media conference, there would be a legal and a financial professional.
Absolutely. I mean, finding funding for your film and understanding copyright and knowing what your contract is, it's all super important. Mariela, do you want to talk about that?
And contracts can become very draconian these days. If you don't read the fine print, you may be stuck with somebody forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, there's so many people.
Like a marriage.
Pretty much.
But I also think that there are so many people that are content creators that use their phone and, Instagram, and there's platforms that make it so easy. But then once you go out on your own and you're really trying to make a film and really trying to get something off the ground, it can become a lot. It can just be a lot.
Dense. And we think about, we're artists first, right? But you have to be able to manage your own business.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's where some of the conflict does end up happening is because a lot of creatives are they're creatives, right? And I speak to being half of, with a creative, because with Sweetbread, my color grading company, it's my creative, the colorist, who's my business partner, but I handle everything else, the business, the logistics, the operations, all of that. And so it takes two brains almost. And a lot of freelancers have to try to be two brains in one, and that's difficult, which is why we do bring in the business and the legal and the financial side to speak on that, of how to go from freelancer to now you're an entrepreneur.
I know we talked on this program about the legislature earmarking, I think it was $300 million to go toward filmmaking in Texas and incentives. Is there anyone to speak on that and say, how do I get some of this money?
Yeah, we're doing a whole panel on it. The Texas Film Commission is coming down. They're bringing 5 people from the Texas Film Commission to break down, now that we've passed the bill, here's how you use it, which is one of the things I'm the most excited about.
I would think if there's no other reason to go to this conference, that would be one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk a little about Texas Film Commission. In the almost 30 years that I've been here, there was a time where it was very active in bringing projects here. I heard all the time of things shooting. Then it kind of got quiet for a bit. Then there seemed to be this new push to do it. Are we, and I even remember an article being like, Texas is the new California when it comes to film production. I don't know that I saw that happen here, but they talked about the variety of landscape we have, the way you can be here to shoot, and you can have all these different settings that you wouldn't get such a variety anywhere else. Where are we today in film projects in our area?
It's growing rapidly. The Texas Film Commission, as well as the Houston Film Commission with Alfred Cervantes, are working very hard to do all of that marketing Houston and Texas as outside of the state. This new incentive bill is going to really make that skyrocket because it's locked in the same rate for 10 years, which means TV shows can budget for being in Texas for a long period of time. They can think about what that means for them financially and are we're scrappier. We have less permitting than LA or New York. It's much easier to get a project off the ground here. And a lot of creatives are starting to realize that. Mo is a great example. I mean, he loved shooting his Netflix show here and wants to make another project here. And the word's going to spread.
Well, are there certain challenges in Texas? I mean, you make it sound really easy. We're going to give you money. You don't have to follow as many laws. But what's the challenge? Why is it the weather? I mean, versus California, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. The weather is definitely a huge challenge, right? Because hurricanes and flooding, we are a flood city, so all of these things do present challenges. But going back to how we have to change the landscape and things that are changing, it's going to get to that point that somehow it will be changing and we can, start doing business here a little bit better.
And the Houston Media Conference is a huge part of that change because it was difficult for people who came into Texas previously to find the resources, understand where to rent the gear, where to staff up their crew. And now that we've created this hub with the Houston Media Conference, when people come in, we have that Rolodex and we can help them make their project.
And we do have a question from one of our YouTube viewers. Candy Torres would like to know, is there any funding for screenwriting for a novice? I have a producer, but no money, so I do it myself. Tough.
Oh my God, that's so tough. I would say reach out to the Southwest Alternate Media Project, SWAMP. They have lots of resources. They also onboard fiscal sponsorships as well. There's also grants that you can apply for from the Houston Arts Alliance, as well as the Austin Film Society, which the name is Austin, but it's a Texas-based organization. Both of those organizations have grants for screenwriters. If you are trying to develop a project, they'll give you your seed money.
Oh. What about, for a while there, we heard about so many people leaving the country to do works. They would go into Canada. All the stuff that's gone on with tariffs and all of that of late, does that help, do we know, help our local film industry? And by local, I mean both U.S., but also in Texas.
I don't think we know yet what impact the new tariffs are going to have on film production. I mean, we've been hearing a lot of the sky is falling, everything's moving out of the country for years now, and I haven't personally seen that. I don't know, Mariela, if you have.
No, if anything, now with SB, that just passed, that now things are coming here. You have Taylor Sheridan, doing his business up in Fort Worth, and so that's going to ripple. It's a big ripple effect. When a big water drop hits, it's going to end up spreading to the rest of the city. Exactly.
The butterfly effect.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And so we will end up seeing, the work coming in. It's going to hit heavy, of course, in Fort Worth, and then it'll, venture out.
Yeah. Where can people find out more about the conference if they want to join?
The website is cinemahtx.org/HMC, Houston Media Conference. You can Google us as well. We're opening tomorrow, August 22nd at Norris Conference Center.
Best of luck.
Katie Creeggan-Rios is the executive director of the Houston Cinema Arts Society. Mariela Aguirre is a Houston Cinema Arts Society board member. Thank you both for joining us today.
Good luck.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Coming up, we'll continue diving into the top stories of the day. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
1A is named after the First Amendment. It protects free speech and a free press. And for all the focus on the issues that divide us, it's your stories that help us understand what connects us too. We're more than just the news. At 1A, you help us shape the daily conversation. And that way, we can be sure we'll get to the heart of the story together.
1A, weekdays at 2 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Houston Theater Week, a citywide celebration of live performances. Participating organizations include theater, dance, and music presenters. Returning August 18th through 24th. Tickets at HoustonTheaterWeek.com.
We could see some showers and thunderstorms mainly after 3 o'clock today. Right now, it's 86. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll continue our coverage of today's top stories. The Texas House passing a new congressional map that will help Republicans gain 5 additional seats in a closely divided U.S. House. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also discuss the latest on the Russian-Ukraine conflict with Vitalii Tarasiuk, the Consul General of Ukraine in Houston.
Plus, we'll also share our latest pop culture obsessions for our regular Thursday feature, Current Obsessions.
And we want to hear from you. Do you have thoughts on today's topics? Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to hellohouston.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump has won his appeal to throw out a massive civil fraud penalty in New York. Today, an appeals court ruled that the more than $500 million fine was excessive. Last year, a New York judge found Trump liable for inflating financial statements for better rates from lenders and insurers. New York Attorney General Letitia James brought that case. This latest ruling comes 4 days after Trump's political weaponization czar at the Justice Department, Ed Martin, began investigating the New York AG for alleged mortgage fraud and urged James to resign. California state legislators are expected to take a final vote today on a plan to redraw the state's congressional lines. Democrats are eyeing a handful of currently Republican seats to offset the GOP's attempt to pick up more seats in Texas ahead of next year's midterm elections. In California, lawmakers need to approve the measure in order to put it before voters this November. From member station KQED, Guy Marzorati reports.
Democrats in California are hoping to flip 5 House districts held by Republicans to match the 5 seats GOP lawmakers in Texas are eyeing with their own redistricting plan. California's state Senate and Assembly will vote on the proposed map and on a separate bill calling a November 4th special election. California's current district lines are drawn by a voter-created commission, so Democrats will need voter approval to pass the plan. Republicans in the legislature have filed a lawsuit to block the new maps, claiming they've been unlawfully rushed to a vote. For NPR News, I'm Guy Marzorati in San Jose.
Though offshore, an unusually large Hurricane Erin is delivering dangerous surf and rip currents all along the eastern seaboard. Mandatory evacuations were ordered in parts of North Carolina's Outer Banks. Will Michaels with member station WUNC in Chapel Hill describes a state especially vulnerable to the impacts of climate change.
Climate change has accelerated beach erosion and washed away dunes in many areas. So when we have exceptionally high tides, low-lying areas that were once protected are now more likely to flood. And it's also worth pointing out that it's not just happening on the coast. North Carolina is still recovering from Helene, which tore through the western part of the state almost a year ago. Then Chantal flooded parts of central North Carolina this year over the 4th of July weekend, and both of those were deadly storms.
WUNC's Will Michaels reporting. The Federal Reserve's annual economic symposium in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, is expected to offer the American public further insight into the direction the Fed's taking its monetary policy, especially on whether to lower borrowing costs. Tomorrow, Fed Chair Jerome Powell is slated to deliver his final speech at the annual gathering before his term ends next May. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. The Texas Senate could approve a new congressional map for the state as soon as tonight. A Senate committee voted along party lines this morning to advance a map passed by the Texas House last night. Democratic State Senator Boris Miles, responding to the bill's Republican sponsor, Senator Phil King, attacked the process as racially discriminatory.
But now there is literally zero opportunity for public to have any input in this map. You break up communities but take no responsibility for them.
The full Senate is set to meet this evening at 7 p.m. Houston Firefighters Union President Marty Langton is running for Harris County Judge. News 88.7's Sarah Gruno says he's backed by notable Republican firebrands.
Langton's endorsements already include Jim Mattress McIngvale and General Land Office Commissioner Don Buckingham. McIngvale, a notable furniture store salesman and outspoken conservative, likened Langton's election bid to a, quote, Harris County Doge, short for the Department of Government Efficiency.
Every dollar must be tracked. Every cent must be accumulated for. And Marty is Elon. Only difference is he's not going to leave till the job is totally done. That's accountability.
Langton said he plans to prioritize fiscal responsibility, backing law enforcement, and lowering taxes.
If you're not focused on those things, you are not doing the job.
Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo hasn't said if she's running for re-election. I'm Sarah Gruno, News 88.7.
In sports, the Astros swept by the Detroit Tigers in their home. Houston moves on to Baltimore today as they take on the Orioles at 6:15. Checking your weather, sunny with a chance for afternoon showers and thunderstorms. A high of 98 today with a heat index of 104. Tonight, 40% chance of overnight showers and thunderstorms, a low of 78. Right now, mostly cloudy, 89 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the noon hour of Hello Houston. We made it to this point. So did all of you. So thank you for listening, for watching. When I say watching, you're like, you're on radio. We're on YouTube. We stream live. And there is a vibrant community in the chat over on YouTube that we always pop in and see what they're up to. There's a lot going on there again today. Just go to hellohouston.org. At the top there, you'll see a big orange banner. You can click it and go right to our YouTube channel. Or if you're in YouTube, just look for Houston Public Media, and we're there.
And we're there. And there are a few showers that are there up around Lake Livingston, just FYI. There's a chance we'll see some heavy showers as we move through the afternoon. Into the evening, same tomorrow, and then it should at least dry out a bit for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So the weekend.
So I just want to hear from you. It's going to be like, it's going to be 78 and sunny all weekend.
Well, we are.
How long do I have to wait for that?
There is a
you
light.
and everybody else.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel, I think. Just because we're that time of year. We can tell. What's today's date?
Today is August 21st,
That's
2025.
Right. So 30 days from now, we'll be at September 21st. And so then we start to get our first fronts that we can at least hope for. Mm-hmm. So another month of heat, and then we'll be that place everybody wants to live.
Yes, and we did receive a text that says, love listening to you three. That's all.
That's us. That's us three. Well, we
I have
definitely
zero
have.
segue to that.
How is Dan?
I just threw it in there,
And we do get a lot. There's a whole community out there, and I mentioned that at the beginning. And Frank was calling out some of them by name, but we get used to knowing who you are. But if you want to join that and find out, and they talk about other things, they talked about Spamonia already, and I haven't even mentioned it on the show. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But there is more pressing news coming our way. So Celeste, start us off on the headlines.
Thank you, Ernie. Continuing as the top story of the day, the Texas House passed a new congressional map Wednesday that will likely give Republicans 5 more seats in a closely divided U.S. House. The GOP hopes this redistricting will go a long way in ensuring the U.S. House remains in Republican control, even as it sets in motion a wave of gerrymandering in other states, including California. Placing the redistricting as a priority in this legislature's first special session led the heavily outnumbered Texas House Democrats to hold up the redistricting plan by leaving Texas for other states, depriving the chamber of the quorum necessary to vote or give any work accomplished. But the Dems returned Monday for a new special session, watching the new map go through solely on Republican votes, and now vowing they will challenge the redistricting in the courts. Under the new map requested by President Trump would likely send 30 Republicans and 8 Democrats to Washington. And the GOP wasn't even trying to hide the true motive behind the map. You want transparency? The underlining goal of this redistricting is to improve Republican political performance, the bill's author, Representative Todd Hunter of Corpus Christi, said on Wednesday. Again, we ask, what are your feelings about the new map, how it came to be voted on, and if you feel it will lead to the interest of the people of the state of Texas being better represented in Washington, D.C. Now is the time to join the conversation. 713-440-8870.
Good recap of how we got here. And
yes.
I think the most interesting part in the whole thing is that the GOP is right out there saying why it's being done. It's not. There were some very interesting comments made on the floor of the legislature yesterday in the House in which they talked about, Texans voted in a Republican administration, therefore Texas is a red state, and therefore they should be represented that way. One of the representatives went on to say 55% of black voters voted for Trump, 55% of Hispanic voters voted for Trump. I can't jump on the validity of that, but if that is actually the true numbers, that still leaves 45% of both of those groups of having not. Do they get 45% of the representation? These maps seem to shift away from that, and once again, we see this happening across the country in the all or nothing presentation of states. And I don't know that serves the best interest of the people.
You better put your money on the Senate. And that's the only place that this country can make a difference is to turn the Senate Democrat if they want to fight against what's going to be an all-Republican House.
And it's interesting, as y'all mentioned, there are 8 states that are looking at redistricting maps. That's Texas included. Obviously, they just passed theirs, this state. But, it's expected to happen. We're looking at California, New York, Missouri, Ohio, and it just continues going. I mean,
right.
This is really
red,
paving a way.
Blue.
Some red and some blue.
Yeah. So the House is going to be in this little tit-for-tat fight, it looks like, for another year. And like I say, everybody gets 2 senators. So that's where you can fight, and then you can vote for president. But other than that, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a slog.
Which goes back to that argument we often hear about making Puerto Rico a state or making Washington, D.C. its own independent state because of the fear of, well, then they get 2 more senators. And of course, if Canada became the 51st state, 2 more senators.
What an insult to Canada.
But the thing is, there is the argument that we have voted in this administration. Does that represent the full will of the people of the country? And is it majority rule? Or do we have to look at, even when it comes to the Electoral College and the presidential race, in most states, winner takes all.
Well,
should we be looking at changing that?
That's a whole other rabbit hole. I mean, what happened to one person, one vote? Because that doesn't matter. You can have a majority vote of people that support one candidate, but because of the Electoral College, another candidate wins. And that's happened more than once.
713-440-8870. We're talking about this and I guess all political matters about representation. Ari's on the phone from Post Oak Park. Ari, what's on your mind?
Thanks to you 3 for the show, and I appreciate the station very much, particularly in this funding environment. Much appreciation. To the point, the electors nakedly choosing, those in office nakedly choosing the voters is inherently wrong. I agree with Frank. The Electoral College is a relic, and both parties should attempt to achieve some type of clarity with a bipartisan commission to arrange voting districts. This naked partisanship is exhausting, and it's not democratic. Thank you.
Ari, thank
Thanks,
you for
Ari.
those thoughts. I also wonder, oftentimes you have to push to the extreme to come back to the middle. And I wonder if this move and all of this redistricting, there's somebody on Twitter or X, whatever we call it now, who was doing maps of every single state and showing how you could gerrymander all the Republicans out and it could all be Democrat across the entire country by the way you play gerrymandering. Those ideas, that understanding, will that lead finally to a federal law that outlaws gerrymandering, or at least outlaws political motivated redistricting and puts it, as California does, theoretically, in the hand of an outside independent group? There are some questions in how California does it too as well. But is this the moment that maybe America wakes up and says, we need to look at how we find our representation? As Frank was saying, it shouldn't be the politicians picking the voters. It should be the voters picking the politicians.
Right.
Does this sway us?
And again, 713-440-8870. Joyce in Northwest Houston is on the line. Joyce, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Nobody needs to worry about those 5 extra Republican votes, because Trump is going to put in a census for citizens only. And since Texas is an international state, we'll lose not only those 5 extras, but 5 or 6 that we probably already had.
Joyce, thank you for your comments. More food for thought there.
Yeah, we'll see.
713-440-8870. Joyce, thank you for your comments. Michael from Westgate, what's on your mind?
Hi, Ernie. Listen, what a lot of people don't seem to have seen in this whole procedure is this is all going to be challenged in federal court. And just a couple of years ago, the Supreme Court forced the state of Alabama to redraw their lines after they had tried to redistrict and knock out a minority representative. So the Republicans may be biting off more than they can chew, because in the end, the Supreme Court might say, because of discrimination, which I know a number of Texas Democrats have brought up, eventually we may see that the Supreme Court of the United States forces a redrawing of the lines, or they may take it into their hands themselves. So, Michael, we'll just have to see what happens after all the court actions are finished.
It's an interesting point, but I also look back at the current map we have right now, and that's being challenged in the courts. And they have been challenged. We're always challenging the maps, and often you can't. I think from a political point of view, it's risky to depend on the courts to correct it. I think we need to look at our elected officials and hope that they course correct before we depend on that. But that is true. That is a fail-safe that's in front if you oppose these maps or feel that they were drawn inappropriately.
Yeah, I appreciate the thought, Michael. But again, don't lose sight of the fact that we are where we are. And where we are is not a just place to be. And that's what's frightening about it.
Well, it's not a just place to be if you believe that there should be more of a Democratic voice. If you believe there should be more of a Republican voice and that the majority of the state did put in this administration, did elect these officials, then they're going to feel this is the right move.
I believe there should be more of a people's voice. Let's do away with all districting. That's the way you get rid of redistricting, is to get rid of districting and let people vote. And whoever they vote for wins.
You do for governor, you do for senator, you do for president, you vote statewide and majority rules.
How did we vote before all of this gerrymandering started?
Well, we had districts, we had communities, and they voted for their representation. When you go to Congress, it was for areas, communities.
Well, then let's do
to be
counties.
represented.
If you want to represent the county, represent the county.
You're listening to Hello Houston. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. Anne from Clear Lake is on the line. Anne, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Hi, I just wanted to say that I feel that I've been disenfranchised for some time we were gerrymandered into Brian Babin's district some years ago. I live really close to Nassau, and his district extends to like Vidor, which is an hour and a half drive. You would think I'd be his demographic, white, Christian, female, etc., but I'm not. And I feel like my vote for my representative has no standing and I agree
correct.
I agree that it's the Senate. That's about all we can do. And I do wonder why if it's true that we have 8 million Democrats and 6 million Republicans, why we don't have a Democratic senator. But yeah, I've felt disenfranchised for some time, and I know in our area we have not had strong Democratic candidates, even because everybody knows they're not going to win.
And a quick question for you on this area too. We've been talking about this on the show, that there is some polling, there is some statistics that imply that we have a larger Democratic populace in Texas than what's represented by our elected officials. How do we encourage everyone to get out and vote? What would you say? What is keeping people from going to the polls if, in fact, there are more Democrats in this state, but they don't carry the state?
Well, I think it is, local issues. And I also think that there's, some kind of a, almost a fear factor. I know that people who are, left-leaning in our area tend to be very quiet about their beliefs. They just tend to kind of huddle and not say very much in gatherings, social gatherings in the neighborhoods.
And I think what we're going to see is a lot more noise from the Democratic side. I think they've already started speaking a little louder this time. We'll see if it carries through to elections and if it makes any change. Ann, thank you very much for your call.
And again, 713-440-8870. Alvin from Third Word is on the line. Alvin.
Third Ward. We'll get it right.
Yes, I'm from the First World, Celeste. Okay, look. So look, guys, so this is what's going on. What everybody has been saying is absolutely correct. And furthermore, here's some data. Right now, it takes about 450,000 Texas residents to equal one white representative. It takes 1.4 million Latino residents to equal one Latino resident. And it takes 2 million Texans to equal one black representative. So this is what we're dealing with in Texas, and in no way is it fair.
Alvin, thank you for those numbers. It goes back to the point that legally we're supposedly not supposed to, how many qualifiers can I get in that sentence, to gerrymander along racial lines. And so if it's being done racially, that is against the law. If it's being done politically by party and affiliation, that is allowed by law. And that's why you see the Democrats talking about this is a racist map, and you see the Republicans talking about this is finding the voters where they're at. So it's a very interesting point, but thank you for those numbers.
Well, and it's interesting because we want a blended society. We don't want a segregated society. But when you blend that society, then it's difficult to know where there's any racial divide or racial line being drawn, because there's people of all races and all over the county. We're the most diverse county there is. So how back in the day, you may have been able to say, well, that particular part of the county was mostly black or Latino or white. But now there's a very big mix across the county. It's not entirely blended, but it's more so than it has been in the past.
Right. And again, you can join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Mike in Northwest Houston is joining us now. Mike, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you very much. I'm an avid follower for over 30 years. I have this brief comment. Mr. Trump has established a record of disdain for the law when it doesn't suit him. And as candidate the first time around, he made a statement, prophetic statement, that in a fair election, Republicans cannot win. Put those two together, and I think we can explain why this is happening today. Thank you.
Mike, thank you for your comments. One more time, 713-440-8870. How are you reacting to the map? We're going to take Sue from Fort Bend County. Sue, what's on your mind?
Well, I was listening, and I heard the woman who called in who said that,
if you looked at her as a demographic, she would look like a Republican, and I feel the same way. I also feel that we need somebody who live in the districts that have been gerrymandered who can speak to those people. They don't see me as a leader, obviously, but we need somebody like Stacey, can't think of her last name, it's not coming to me, who in Georgia,
Stacey
who can get out
Abrams?
there and I'm sorry, say that again.
I got the name wrong too. Continue.
Okay. Anyway, who can speak to the people who live in those areas where they need to get out and vote. And I, for one, am tired of it. I hope that we can get it done.
Thank you very much for that. And it is Stacey Abrams. Yeah, I was right what I said. Anyway, Sue, thank you for that comment. And you know what, though? You can be powerful speaking out in your own community and what you believe in, and making sure that you go to the polls when it's your chance. Are you registered to vote? Make sure you check your registration before we get to the next election and make sure you can vote.
Coming up on Hello Houston, the Consul General of Ukraine right here in Houston joins us live in studio. This is News 88.7.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Listen right here as we rock and roll through one of the great achievements in music, released in 1975. Bruce Springsteen's landmark album, Born to Run.
There's a kind of grandeur to it that was missing on the first two records. I think Bruce kind of discovered his voice with that album.
You'll hear commentary and music. We'll bring it, remembering Born to Run, right here real soon. Saturday evening at 7 on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
I'm Peter Sagal, and this week's Wait, Sterling K. Brown, Nathan Lane, Tig Notaro, and more. It's the best party you didn't get invited to, but now you are. Join us for the news quiz from NPR.
You can hear it Saturday. It's on at 10 a.m.
Support comes from the Eternal Gandhi Museum, Houston, highlighting the power of nonviolent conflict resolution through examples of peace leaders worldwide. Now open. Field trips and group visits available. More at egmh.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from UT Health Houston, home to Dr. Mary Aitken, who is focused on keeping children safe from preventable injuries through research, education, and advocacy. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The last week has refocused many of us on the war raging between Russia and Ukraine. Last Friday, President Trump met with Russian President Putin in Alaska, and then on Monday, Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, along with 7 other European leaders in Washington, D.C. So what happens next? There was talk of direct meetings between Zelenskyy and Putin, followed by another meeting that would then include Trump, but recent signs from Russia bring that plan into question. To better understand the current situation and talk of where we go from here, we welcome Vitalii Tarasiuk, who is the Consul General of Ukraine in Houston. Mr. Tarasiuk, welcome back to our station and welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back, and I think this is the best format of talking to the people through the radio, because it's uncensored, direct communication. And
well, we're also doing it on YouTube, so people are watching us right now on YouTube. If you would like to join the conversation, you can leave comments on our YouTube channel as you're watching the video, or give us a call or text at 713-440-8870. I guess the best place to start with all of this is, has anything changed in the last few days? We had these very high-profile summits. as a Ukrainian, representing the government, having just come back from there, what is the feeling?
Well, I mean, look, let's just not forget that the war, the Russia's aggression against Ukraine, is ongoing for more than 10 years already. It's just like the fourth year of a full-scale invasion that started in 2022. And obviously, over the last year, we had a lot of engagement, diplomatic engagement that started in the beginning of this year, and they're continuing with the big summit that we had in Washington just this week on Monday. Obviously, Ukraine from the beginning said that nobody wants peace more than Ukrainian people. And we always said that we are ready for diplomatic talks that could bring just and lasting peace to people in Ukraine. We can remember that it all started when the President Trump and U.S. administration proposed kind of like a ceasefire in Jeddah in March of this year, and Ukraine agreed, accepted this proposal from the United States, but Russia did not. And even the proposals, they came up themselves, they did not stick to any of those. So this year, we obviously, after that, we had a number of visits and exchanges and meetings in Turkey, in Istanbul, but we clearly see that the level of the Russian delegation at all of those meetings are not the people who make any decisions about anything. But the only good outcome of those meetings in Turkey were that we were able to secure some exchange of prisoners of war and some of the deported people that we were able to bring them back home. This is the only positive outcome of all of those meetings. So obviously we are hopeful that after the meeting we had Monday in Washington, D.C., between our president, President Trump, and European leaders and leaders of European Union and NATO. So the next step is obviously the meeting between Putin and President Zelenskyy. Obviously, we see a lot of signs from the Russian side about the conditions before the meeting happening. We think that, the meeting should happen, and Ukraine is ready to make this happen. And President Zelenskyy, I think, publicly yesterday said openly that he is ready for this meeting. Obviously, there are a lot of things that we would like to discuss, but the main goal for Ukraine is to bring just and lasting peace to Ukraine. And so I think the first condition for anything to happen, it should be ceasefire. And after that, we're ready to talk about any substantial diplomatic negotiations.
Mr. Tarasiuk, we are talking about the summits, and on Hello Houston and all around the world, people have talked a lot about optics just as much as they talked about substance. Was there anything to you from your perspective that stood out that you weren't expecting to come from these meetings?
Well, I think, the most important and clear message out of the summit on Monday, as you can clearly see that European Union, European leaders stand firmly behind with Ukraine. And I think in itself, it's unprecedented event when so many European leaders, the leaders of European Union and NATO flew in together with the president of Ukraine to Washington. And I think you cannot find anything like that in any history book. And this is unprecedented in itself. How Europe is united in supporting Ukraine, because Europe understands that it's not only Ukrainians' war, it's also their war, and it's important for their own security.
You just returned from Ukraine, and I'm curious how the people there, how the government reacted to the symbols of the red carpet rolled out for Putin, the way the President of the United States greeted him, the handshake. How did that read in Ukraine?
Well, obviously, people in Ukraine are under constant terrorist attacks from Russia. I can attest to that myself because I've been through many of those myself while being in Kyiv, in the capital. And Kyiv is one of the most heavily attacked cities, if not talking about cities on the front line from the major cities in Ukraine. It's being attacked on a daily basis. Even today, when we have all of those talks about possible future meetings, Ukraine was attacked with 574 Shahed drones and about 40 ballistic missiles. And even one of the factories, actually a U.S. factory, on the border with Hungary and Slovakia, so on the western border of Ukraine, was hit. The factory that was producing coffee machines. Mm-hmm. And actually, the important thing is that the headquarters of this company is here in Texas, in Austin. So obviously, people in Ukraine, every day, they experience the horrors of those terrorist attacks. And obviously, when they see a war criminal, that Putin is, a war criminal indicted by the International Criminal Court for the crimes against humanity, for kidnapping Ukrainian kids, and there are more than 20,000 documented cases of kids kidnapped from Ukraine to Russia for indoctrination and for resettling. Obviously, when we see the red carpet for the war criminal, nobody in Ukraine really likes that. But the politicians in Ukraine, mostly people understand that the war should end with negotiations. And if that's a part of it, and if that will bring just a lasting peace for Ukraine, people are Ukraine obviously not happy, but accepting that, I think.
So this has been going on a long time, as you said. And people tend to forget why it even started in the first place. What is it that Putin originally wanted from Ukraine? Access to the Black Sea, access to pipeline, more land. What drove Putin to do this, and how is that going to play in any negotiation?
Well, thank you for this question, because it's actually nothing of the above, nothing that you mentioned is the reason for Putin's aggression. So the only reason for Putin's aggression is Ukrainian independence and Ukrainian sovereignty in itself. So he's not about Ukrainian land. It's not about Ukrainian resources. It's not about NATO membership or anything. It's about Ukraine being a sovereign state, being an independent nation that defines its own future. That's what's at stake. That's what Putin is about. That's what he wants. He wants to restore the Russian Empire, the former Soviet Union. And I think, downplayed in the media a lot here in the West, you can see that the foreign minister of Russia, while he was attending the summit in Alaska, he was wearing a sweatshirt with a sign on it, USSR in Russian. So it's a signal. It's what it's all about for those people.
So that's my question. If it's not about land, then you can't appease with land.
Absolutely.
If it's not about access to the Black Sea, you can't give them access. What can Zelenskyy offer as part of the negotiation that will actually be accepted by Putin?
Well, our position from the beginning was, that the peace could only be achieved through strengths of Ukraine and through strengths of our allies. Only through exerting pressure on the aggressor, through sanctions, through making Ukraine basically a still, porcupine, that, would be able to defend itself and would be hard to swallow for Russia. This is the only way how in reality, the war could be ended. When Putin will see that it's not possible and he is not able to do that, then he will have to compromise. That's why we think that strong sanctions on, especially like secondary sanctions on those countries that help Russia avoid the initial sanctions, are an important component to bring Russia to the negotiating table.
When you talk about strength too, and as you were talking about it, I thought, does it have to be physical strength? Is it simply, like we saw in Washington on Monday, being flanked by those other world leaders is showing a strength of resolve against their aggression? Does it have to be weaponry or financial, or can it simply be this is becoming too big a coalition to stand against?
Well, I think, it's both. We need both. Obviously, the solidarity behind Ukraine, like we saw the unity in Washington this Monday, but also Russia only understands the practical things on the ground. And they always try to, always refer to realities on the ground. So that's quoting them. So obviously more weapons to Ukraine is important, and more sanctions against Russia and Russia's allies are important. That would really bring a change. And Ukraine is producing more and more weapons on its own. I think, not many people realize that Ukraine produces about 40% of all of the weapons that it uses. and about 30% comes from the United States and 30% comes from the European Union countries. So the goal of Ukraine obviously is to be able to produce more, and by the year end we hope that we'll be able to produce about 50% of all of the weapons ourselves.
So, Mr. Tarasiuk, here we are, we've been talking, this has been happening now for 3 years, a full, large-scale war. And you're saying that Ukraine is producing more of their weapons. What else is Ukraine doing to be able to continue at this pace, given there really is, we're talking of ceasefires, but we're not there?
Yeah, obviously, for us, the stronger we are, the more difficult for Russia would be on the battlefield, on the front line. So obviously, it's tough on Russia's economy as well. The sanctions are working, and that's why we see those kind of negotiation gambits from Russia, only because they're afraid of more sanctions to come that could seriously undermine their economy that is already on the brink of breakdown.
From your understanding of international policy, could there be enough of a groundswell of Russian people toward the president of Russia that could change this assault, or is the hierarchy so strong, the oligarchy so strong there, it doesn't really matter what the people want if Putin is set on doing this?
Well, unfortunately, Russia is a totally controlled society. The media is totally controlled. So most of the people in Russia are brainwashed in supporting government's narrative on their aggression against Ukraine. Those who do not support, they're just silent because they're afraid of being of oppression inside the country. So we do not anticipate that any kind of popular uprising or discontent inside Russia can really make changes in Russia's foreign policy.
We are speaking with Vitalii Tarasiuk, who is the Consul General of Ukraine in Houston. If you'd like to join the conversation, feel free to give us a call, 713-440-8870. One issue that came up in the White House meeting was the talk of elections, and they quizzed your president about, how come they're having elections. The people in Ukraine, how are they feeling about the current leadership, and where do they sit on this idea that a change of course might be appropriate?
Well, look, Ukraine is the only country on a post-Soviet space that holds regular elections, parliamentary, presidential. There is no any other former Soviet republic that is on the same par as Ukraine in terms of democracy and elections. The thing is that we cannot physically have elections during the wartime. First, it's in our constitution that when Ukraine is at war, you cannot have elections. But even like you're talking about physically doing that, about 1 million people are on the front line. How are they going to vote? How are you going to organize election districts in Ukraine without them being targeted by Russian missiles and drones, especially on an election day if this one comes? Then we have about 7 million people outside of the country in different countries in Europe as refugees. So also a big question how those people are going to vote. So obviously as soon as the security situation allows, Ukraine will have an election. Obviously.
Speaking of optics, as we did a little bit ago, there was a lot of discussion we had, and we probably trivialized it more than we should have, was what was your president going to wear to the White House? And he showed up in that black suit, and which I thought was a brilliant way to handle the situation. There had been such talk of what he wore last visit, and yet do you succumb to it and show up in a regular business suit? That's not what he does. It's not what he wears. How did that read for, and I keep asking you how it read for the folks back in Ukraine, because you just flew in from Ukraine.
Yes, obviously the president, he's the commander-in-chief of the country at war. And so obviously he is in tune with the Ukrainian armed forces and those people wearing uniform on the front line. That's why he decided that during the war, he will be more in tune with the people on the front line defending the country. That's why he is wearing the things that are more appropriate as a commander-in-chief. Obviously, the black suit that he was wearing in Washington, D.C., this is not the first time he actually wore that. He also wore that on numerous occasions in Europe before that, earlier this year. Pope's funeral as well, yes.
Yeah. I want to ask about the children. I guess I was in the room. 20,000 children are in Russian hands. Is that right?
I mean, in reality, the number is much more than that. I mean, it's just 20,000 documented kids. When we know where they are exactly, we know all of the specifics, and those cases are documented by the Office of Prosecutors General in Ukraine. In reality, the number are much, much higher than that.
That's got to be just heartbreaking.
It is. I mean, and we undertake a lot of diplomatic effort using countries as intermediaries who are willing to be between us and Russia in negotiating the return of those kids. It's a very slow process, but for us, the end of the war and a just and lasting peace is also the return of Ukrainian kids back home.
Absolutely.
Of all of the prisoners of war, of all of the deported persons, obviously of all of the kids that were stolen from their families and being indoctrinated against their own families, against their own country in Russia.
You are the Consul General here in Houston representing Ukraine. What can Houstonians be doing to help out? What are the initiatives you folks are doing, and where do we fit into this?
Thank you so much for this question. I mean, we actually feel very welcomed here in Houston. So the consulate represents Ukraine in 7 states. Obviously, the office is here in Houston, but we work from Colorado, New Mexico, Arkansas, the 7 southwestern region of the United States. But since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, actually, we launched an initiative, Texas Law Enforcement for Ukraine, when the Houston police forces were giving to us their helmets, their bulletproof vests, and we were sending lots and lots of that in the first probably 6 to 8 months of a full-scale invasion. Now, we do a lot of humanitarian assistance being sent to Ukraine. Here in Houston, you have 2 excellent non-profit medical organizations, one called Medical Bridges, and the other is called Project Cure. Both organizations are sending millions of worth of equipment to Ukraine. And so far, I would say, during the last 3 years, each of them sent more than 11 million worth of equipment to Ukraine. So obviously, they rely on the support of Houstonians who can support their work, because obviously the shipments also, have certain, operational costs. And if you could support any of those organizations, that would be great. The other thing that we as a consulate, especially this year, are supporting and promoting is actually a fundraising initiative on a platform initiated by the president of Ukraine, Zelenskyy, called United 24. Mm-hmm. And we are the consulate, and together with our other embassies and consulates across the world, we are fundraising for mobile carriers, like robot carriers, that can evacuate our soldiers from the front line. Because this war actually is a war that's a combination of a First World War, when people are fighting in the trenches, and a Third World War with the use of artificial intelligence, drones, robotics, and it's all combination of that. And so we on Ukrainian side, we value the lives of every soldier we have on the front line, because this is our best people. So we want them to be safe and sound, and that's why we want more robots, more drones to be instead of them on the battlefield. That's why we're fundraising for this mobile robot carriers, United 24 platform. Please have a look at it. If you willing to support, we will be really grateful.
We are speaking with the Consul General of Ukraine in Houston and taking your calls at 713-440-8870. And we have on the line Aga from Memorial City. Aga, what's on your mind?
Hi, I would like to say hi to the Consul General. I'm from Azerbaijan, which is a country supporting Ukraine, and we were part of a former Soviet Union. And I totally understand the pain and suffering you went through. We went through the Karabakh War and finally ended it. But my comment, I agree with him. Russian people will never rise up against Putin, ever. My aunt lives in Moscow, and when I talk to her, she says that people are so upbeat about the war. There are lines of people signing up, volunteer to go fight. So if we're betting on Russian people rise up against Putin, we're not going to get anywhere. The only way we can end this war is, number one, financially, freeze Russian assets and choke the oligarchs from the billions they make. And number two is a force. What I mean is that Give the weapons to Ukrainian people. Ukrainian people, very brave people. Look at the history of World War II revolution. They always were subjected to Russian pain and suffering. Look at about the Volodymyr, when the millions of Ukrainian people were killed intentionally by Stalin because they didn't want to be subject to Soviet rule. So they just need weapons, they need money, they need our support, and they'll take care of the business.
Aga, thank you for your comments. Consul General, what people don't realize is that your job here in Houston outside of wartime would be about building industry and business and making the connection between our country and your country. And I'm curious, what are we seeing as far as we talk about the casualties of a war going on?
Yes.
But while this is going on, what happens to Ukrainian industry and business and the country as a whole and its ability to stay strong?
Yeah, thank you so much. But first of all, I want to thank the previous caller. I think that was an excellent comment, right to the point. Obviously, Houston is the third largest consular corps in the country, with more than 90 consulates here and from all over the world. Obviously, all of those countries, as well as Ukraine, we come here to promote business relations, first and foremost, between our nations and the region here that we work with, Texas and the neighboring states. And despite the fact that it's the war ongoing, we still work a lot in the energy sector with the Texas energy companies, promoting at this stage, obviously, purchase of equipment for Ukrainian production of oil and gas in Ukraine, but obviously looking at the possibilities of having more U.S. companies come to Ukraine for producing more of oil and gas. Not many people realize, but Ukraine has the largest reserves of gas in Europe, outside of like Norway. Norway obviously has more, but Ukraine has a lot of potential. So before the 1960s, before Siberia reserves were discovered, Ukraine was supplying gas for the whole Soviet Union, but then were just abandoned. With the proper investment and technologies, Ukraine can again produce a lot of gas, not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors, European countries. So we talk a lot with energy companies here about the potential and working together when the peace comes. Obviously, we work a lot with the Houston's Medical Center. And we're actually happy to announce that the Texas Children's Hospital and the Baylor College of Medicine, they opened during the wartime in Ukraine, in the city Uzhgorod, in the western part of Ukraine. They're a non-profit that is actually doing a very great job. They brought there a modern 3D printer that prints prosthetics for the warriors that lost their limbs during this war. And they are ready to scale this up across the country, and also obviously when the time comes to become a full-fledged U.S. hospital in Ukraine. We are very proud of this initiative. So obviously there are other things as well that we work on, obviously in defense, in drones production and manufacturing. So our leaders, they've discussed, Ukraine obviously is number one country in terms of innovation in drones production in the world right now. So we produce a lot, and this is the best that anybody was able to invent so far. And we are ready to work with our partners on sharing our knowledge and experience.
Well, no, we're with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vitalii Tarasiuk is the Consul General of Ukraine in Houston. Mr. Tarasiuk, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Thank you.
Coming up, we'll discuss our current obsessions. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future. The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that. Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
p.m.
Voice of America and Radio Free Europe are at risk of losing government funding. A journalist who spent time in a Russian prison for her work with it grapples with the fallout.
I'll be talking to the families of our imprisoned journalists these days. What am I gonna tell them? That their loved ones are imprisoned for nothing?
And this week's On the Media from WNYC.
You can hear it this Saturday at 5 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Theater Under the Stars, offering a season of musicals at the Hobby Center, including the official Broadway tours of Back to the Future and Monty Python's Spamalot. Tickets and subscription details at tuts.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider striving to build trust with businesses across the state through dedicated services. More at texasmutual.com/TexansDeliver. Support comes from SunnyPro, a Houston-based business advisory firm providing tailored consulting solutions, specializing in technology assessments, cybersecurity, AI strategy, and more. Details at sunnypro.com or follow at SunnyPro LLC. Support comes from Specs, Texas family-owned since 1962, offering cool sips, snacks, and more to help beat the heat for a cooler summer. Details at specsonline.com. The fun starts here.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
It was fascinating to get to sit with the Consul General of Ukraine. He is a fascinating man. And as we mentioned during the interview, he just flew in. That's why a lot of our questions were, what is it like there for? Because he was just in Ukraine. He goes quite regularly and is a good conduit to understand the situation, maybe from an alternate point of view.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, right? Because as adults, we can remember things before wars like Ukraine and Russia and what's happening. But as a parent, I see my children, and this is what they know about these areas of the world.
We didn't. I don't know that he would have known the answer. I would like to have asked him what his vision is for when this is going to end.
I was thinking about that too.
I don't think he knows. I mean,
I don't think anybody knows.
No,
I don't think
we're in a
anybody
moment
knows.
of flux. What we do know is that every Thursday we do our current obsessions. And Frank, you teased it. We're tight on time,
Frank.
but we got to know it.
What are you obsessed with, Frank? Besides me?
Okay, are you going to Google? Get your Google ready.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. It
Okay,
makes
it's
us
very
work.
simple. It's very simple. And
Okay.
put in Mars, M-A-R-S, Mars, baby, hippo.
Oh, weren't you obsessed about this before?
No.
No, he was
different
a
animal?
baby zebra last time.
You and your animal. Aww.
Listen, this little baby pygmy hippo, which is a rare, threatened, endangered species. This little guy is so cute. He's 40 pounds, about the size of a Cocker Spaniel. He is the laziest thing in the whole world.
My spirit animal.
All he wants to do is get into the water and hang out in the water. And his people will go in there and try to get him out and struggle with him and get him out of the water. And as soon as he can escape, he from land, he goes right back into the water.
So his name is Mars. He's not from Mars.
He is so cute. So good. And listen, he's at the Tanganyika Wildlife Park in Kansas. I know. The Tanganyika Wildlife Park in Goddard, Kansas.
Well, quickly, before we run out of time, we do have a call on the line. Celeste, you may want to pay particular attention to this. Jane in Fort Bend, what's on your mind?
Celeste, I hope your current obsession is still gardening, because I want to invite you to the greening of Third Ward and beyond. Come on out next month. We're going to give away 1,000 fruit trees, complimentary trees for Houston. We're going to teach people how to grow their own who don't know how to grow. And those who have grown, we're going to teach them extra things like composting, permaculture, microgreens. Even have people who want to maybe have their own chicken, how to lay the eggs. We'll tell you how to what kind of chicken to get and best care. So we're giving away seedlings, so you can come get some things. Broccoli,
Jane, send us all the information at talk@hellohouston.org.
Oh my gosh, Jane, this is the best current obsession ever.
Wow, any baby hippos?
Because Jane, I don't know. You're like anybody who doesn't know how to grow. I don't know how to grow, Jane. So I'm there. I cannot wait. Please send me information. And I'm there with you, Jane. And gardening is still my current obsession. I'm doing a lot of it. It is hot.
Jane, thank you for that. I mentioned earlier, today is National Spumoni Day.
I didn't know what Spumoni was.
It's 3 flavors of ice cream. It's cherry, chocolate, and pistachio. You know, we're used to Neapolitan ice cream, which is vanilla chocolate and strawberry.
That's gross. You
no.
like that?
Oh, my God. You can only get it at Christmas time usually, but this
it does
is
sound
it.
like a fruit cake for ice cream.
Oh, but it's so much better.
You know what else I'm obsessed
Spumoni.
with? Weather, Frank. What's going on out there?
You know, a few showers now in Harris County up on the northwest side. So we're going to see an active afternoon and evening. Be careful. Keep an eye to the sky and an umbrella handy.
I'm going to watch the rain and eat my Spumoni.
That's right. And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening, chatting, engaging, calling, texting, emailing to Hello Houston. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Donations come in many forms: a monthly membership, a one-time gift, and that extra vehicle you no longer need. We take any kind of vehicle in any